Imagine this. You're a young, successful black man who's built an empire from scratch. You've worked hard, sacrificed, and finally reached a level of wealth and influence most people only dream of. Life's good. You've found love in a woman you believe to be your soulmate. She's beautiful, smart, and kind, everything you've ever wanted in a partner. You're ready to take the next step. The only thing standing between you and a perfect future together. Meeting her parents. Now, you've heard bits and pieces about her family. They come from a small town. They've lived in the same house for generations. But there's one thing that's been gnawing at you. She's hinted, more than once, that her parents aren't exactly open-minded when it comes to race. In fact, they might be downright racist. But you love her, and love makes you willing to take risks, right? So, you come up with a plan. Instead of walking into their home, dressed in designer clothes, and driving your expensive car, you decide to show up as just an ordinary guy. No mention of the millions in your bank account, no hint of your luxurious lifestyle, just you, trying to see if her parents can accept you for who you are, not what you have. After all, if they can't accept you without the money, can they accept you at all? The day arrives. Your heart's racing as you pull up to their modest home. You're dressed in simple jeans and a worn-out hoodie, blending in as much as possible. Your fiancée is nervous too, though she's trying to hide it. As you walk up to the door, your mind races. Will they like you? Will they see the real you, or will their prejudice blind them? The door swings open, and there they are, her parents. They greet their daughter warmly, but when their eyes land on you, something shifts. There's a moment, a split second, where their smiles falter. They quickly recover, but you've seen it. You can feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. Still, you smile and extend your hand, trying to make a good impression. Dinner is awkward, to say the least. Her mother makes polite conversation, though you can tell it's forced. Her father barely speaks, focusing more on his plate than anything else. And then, just when you think things can't get any worse, it happens. The moment that changes everything. Her father says something so casual, yet so loaded with hate, that it sends a chill down your spine. You can see your fiancée's face go pale. She wasn't expecting this either. She's caught between her love for you and the reality of her parents' beliefs. You're stunned, trying to process what was just said. But here's the thing, you can't respond the way you want to. You can't blow up or walk out, not yet. You need to know how deep this goes. Are her parents truly stuck in their old ways, or is there hope for them to change? And more importantly, can your relationship survive this? As the tension simmers at the table, you're left with a choice: reveal who you really are, or continue the charade a little longer to see how far this rabbit hole goes. You're not sure which path to take, but one thing's for certain: this dinner is far from over, and the truth about you, about them, about everything is about to come crashing down in a way none of you saw coming. What happens next will leave everyone at that table changed forever. Stay tuned, because this story is just getting started. The silence at the dinner table hangs like a thick fog. You sit there, trying to shake off the sting of what her father just said. But it's impossible. Your fiancée's eyes flicker nervously between you and her parents, her hands fidgeting with the edge of her napkin. She knows this is bad, maybe worse than she ever imagined. You can almost feel her regret for bringing you here, for exposing you to this ugliness. But it's too late now. The words are out in the open, and they can't be taken back. The room feels smaller, the air harder to breathe. You take a sip of water, more to buy yourself time than anything else. You're good at keeping your composure. It's one of the skills that helped you rise to the top. But right now, it's taking everything in you not to let your emotions get the better of you. The anger, the frustration, the sadness, it's all there, swirling just beneath the surface. Her mother tries to smooth things over with a forced smile, asking you a harmless question about your job. You hesitate for a moment, wondering how much you should say. You're supposed to be playing the part of an ordinary guy after all. So, you keep it vague, saying you work in business, nothing fancy. She nods, clearly uninterested, and her gaze shifts to her husband, who's still poking at his food with a scowl on his face. Your fiancée's voice breaks the awkward tension as she tries to steer the conversation into safer waters. She talks about her childhood, sharing stories you've heard before, about growing up in this small conservative town. You listen, but your mind is elsewhere. You're wondering what kind of people could raise someone as wonderful as her, yet still hold on to these outdated, hateful beliefs. It's a contradiction you can't wrap your head around. And then there's her father, sitting there like a stone, his eyes occasionally darting your way as if he's sizing you up, deciding whether or not you're worthy of being at his table. It's not just about race, you realize. There's something else, something more personal. It's as if he resents you for more than just the color of your skin. But what is it? Does he know more about you than you think? Or is it simply that he can't stand the idea of his daughter being with someone who doesn't fit into his narrow worldview? The evening drags on, each minute feeling longer than the last. You feel like you're being tested, like every word you say, every move you make, is being scrutinized. And maybe that's true. Maybe this whole dinner is one big test to see if you'll crack under the pressure. But you won't. Not yet. At one point, your fiancée excuses herself to use the restroom, leaving you alone with her parents. The moment she's out of earshot, her father clears his throat and leans forward slightly, as if he's been waiting for this chance. His eyes lock on yours, and for the first time all evening, he speaks directly to you, his voice low and serious. "You know, I don't think you're the right man for my daughter," he says bluntly, without a hint of hesitation. You feel the weight of his words, but you don't react. You've faced tougher situations than this. Instead, you calmly ask him why he feels that way, even though you already have a pretty good idea. "She's not like you," he continues. "She wasn't raised like you, doesn't come from the same background. You might think you can make this work, but in the end, people like us and people like you don't mix. It's just the way things are." There it is. The real reason he's been so cold, so distant. It's not just about race, it's about class too. He doesn't know you're wealthy, but even without that knowledge, he's already made up his mind that you don't belong. You feel a pang of bitterness, knowing that even if he knew about your success, it probably wouldn't change his opinion. To him, you'll never be good enough for his daughter. Her mother looks uncomfortable, but she doesn't say anything to stop him. Instead, she stares at her plate, pretending not to hear. It's clear this isn't the first time they've had these kinds of thoughts, and it won't be the last. You don't respond immediately, unsure of how to navigate this minefield. Part of you wants to lay it all out there to tell him exactly who you are and what you've accomplished, to show him that you're more than worthy of being with his daughter. But another part of you knows that it won't matter. People like him don't change their minds easily, if at all. So, you do what you've always done when faced with adversity. You stay calm, collected. You meet his gaze and simply say, "I love her. And I'm going to take care of her." He smirks, clearly unimpressed. "Love isn't enough," he says dismissively. It never is. The sound of footsteps interrupts the conversation, and your fiancée returns to the table, unaware of what just transpired. You force a smile, trying to act like everything is fine, but she senses the shift in the atmosphere. She gives you a questioning look, but you shake your head slightly, signaling that now's not the time. The rest of the dinner passes in a blur of strained small talk and uncomfortable silences. When it's finally over, you feel a sense of relief wash over you. But the tension hasn't gone away. If anything, it's only grown stronger, more complicated. As you and your fiancée say your goodbyes and head to the car, she grabs your hand, squeezing it tightly. You can tell she's struggling to hold back tears, and your heart aches for her. She didn't want this to happen. She wanted her parents to accept you, to see what she sees in you. But now she's faced with the harsh reality that they may never come around. "I'm so sorry," she whispers as you pull out of the driveway. "I didn't think it would be this bad." You don't know what to say. There are no words that can fix this. So, you just drive in silence, the weight of the evening pressing down on both of you. The real question now isn't just whether her parents will ever accept you. It's whether your relationship can survive, in spite of them. You know she loves you, but love, as her father so bluntly pointed out, isn't always enough. And then there's the secret you've been keeping. The fact that you're not just an ordinary guy, far from it. Sooner or later, You're going to have to come clean about who you really are, about the life you've built and the wealth you've accumulated. But when you do, will it change things for the better? Or will it only complicate matters further? As you drive through the quiet streets, the tension between you and your fiancée grows thicker, unspoken but palpable. She keeps glancing at you, like she's waiting for you to say something, to reassure her that everything's going to be okay. But you don't know if you can do that. Not yet. Eventually, she breaks the silence. Do you think they'll ever come around? She asks softly, her voice filled with a mix of hope and doubt. You don't answer right away. The truth is, you're not sure. People don't change overnight, and her parents seem especially set in their ways. But you don't want to crush her spirit, so you say the only thing you can think of. I don't know, you admit, your voice quiet. But we'll figure it out. She nods, but the uncertainty lingers in the air between you. The road ahead feels long and uncertain, filled with obstacles you're not sure you can overcome. And then, just as you think the night can't get any more complicated, your phone buzzes in your pocket. You pull it out and glance at the screen, and your heart skips a beat. It's a message from one of your business partners, someone who knows you well and has been there since the beginning of your journey to success. Everything okay? Your fiancée asks, noticing the change in your expression. You hesitate, torn between telling her the truth and keeping up the facade a little longer. But before you can decide, the message flashes across the screen again, this time with more urgency. Need to talk ASAP. It's about the deal. And just like that, you're reminded that your two worlds, your personal life and your business life, are on a collision course. It's only a matter of time before everything comes crashing down. The question is, when it does, will you be able to pick up the pieces? The car ride home feels heavier than ever. You glance over at your fiancée, and it's clear the evening has taken its toll on her. She's staring out the window, lost in her thoughts, probably replaying every awkward moment at dinner, every cold glance, every word that wasn't said. You want to comfort her, to tell her everything will be okay, but how can you promise that when even you're unsure? As you grip the steering wheel tighter, that message on your phone keeps flashing in your mind. The deal your business partner mentioned, it's big. If things go sideways, everything you've worked for could be at risk. But right now, the stakes feel even higher. You're torn between managing your business and navigating the emotional landmine with her parents. It's as if your two lives are pulling you in opposite directions, and sooner or later, something's going to break. You pull into the driveway of your place, and for a moment, you both just sit there in silence. Neither of you moves to get out of the car. The night has taken an emotional toll, and it feels like you're both too drained to even make it to the front door. You glance at her again, but she's still staring out into the dark, her face tight with worry and something else doubt. Are you okay? You ask quietly, finally breaking the silence. She turns to you, her eyes searching your face, and for a moment, it's like she wants to say something, but isn't sure if she should. The question lingers between you, thick and unresolved. And then, she finally speaks. I don't know if they'll ever change, she says, her voice soft, but filled with so much uncertainty. I thought maybe if they got to know you, but tonight she stops, her voice catching. It's like they didn't even try. You take a deep breath, trying to find the right words. Maybe it'll take more time, you say, though even as you say it, you're not sure you believe it. Her father's words were still echoing in your mind, a constant reminder that some people don't change. She sighs, looking down at her hands, twisting her fingers together. I love you, she says, and her voice cracks just a little, but I don't know how we're going to get past this. There it is. The fear you've both been avoiding all night, out in the open now. The fear that her parents' disapproval might be the thing that pulls you apart. And it's not just about them, it's about the life you've built, the secret you're still keeping from her. You've been putting it off, hoping for the right moment, but now it feels like time is running out. You reach for her hand, holding it tightly. We'll figure it out, you say again, though this time, there's a weight in your voice that wasn't there before. You both sit in the car for a few more moments before finally heading inside. The tension doesn't leave though. It follows you into the house, lingering in every corner. You try to distract yourself, checking your phone again. Your business partner has sent another message, this one more urgent than the last. We need to talk now. Call me. You know you can't avoid it any longer. You step out of the room and make the call, your voice low as you speak with your partner. The deal you've been working on for months is teetering on the edge of collapse, and you can hear the stress in his voice as he outlines the problems. There's a competitor making moves, threatening to undercut everything. It's messy, complicated, and it requires your immediate attention. But as you're on the phone, you hear footsteps behind you. You turn to see your fiancée standing in the doorway, her arms crossed, concern etched on her face. Who was that? She asks, her voice cautious. You hesitate, the words catching in your throat. You've been so careful to keep your business life separate from your relationship, but now it's all colliding, and you're not sure how much longer you can keep up the facade. She knows something is off, and you can see it in her eyes. The trust between you feels fragile, like it's hanging by a thread. It's work, you say, trying to keep it vague. But she's not satisfied with that answer. What kind of work? She presses, stepping closer. You can feel the walls closing in. You've always prided yourself on being in control, but right now, you're caught between two worlds, and both are slipping through your fingers. I need to tell you something, you finally say, your voice low and serious. She tenses, clearly bracing herself for whatever's coming. What is it? You swallow hard, knowing there's no turning back from this moment. I haven't been completely honest with you. Her brow furrows in confusion. What do you mean? You take a deep breath, trying to find the right way to say it. I'm not just some regular guy working a 9-to-5 job. I've built a business, a big one. I'm a millionaire. The words hang in the air between you, heavy and charged. You watch her face closely, waiting for her reaction. At first, there's a flicker of disbelief, like she's not sure if she heard you right. Then, slowly, it begins to sink in. Her eyes widen, and you can see the shock, the confusion, the hurt. Why didn't you tell me? She asks, her voice barely above a whisper. You rub the back of your neck, feeling the weight of your decision. I didn't want it to change things between us. I wanted you to love me for me, not for the money. She shakes her head, looking like she's trying to make sense of it all. But you lied to me. I didn't lie, you say quickly. I just didn't tell you everything. She pulls back, wrapping her arms around herself. The distance between you feels palpable now, like an invisible wall has sprung up. I don't understand, she says, her voice trembling. Why keep it a secret? Didn't you trust me? Her words cut deep. You never meant for it to be like this, but now, standing here, you realize how much damage you've done by keeping this part of your life hidden. I do trust you, you say, your voice filled with regret. I didn't want you to think I was trying to impress you with money. I wanted to be sure that what we have is real. She closes her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. But now it feels like I don't know you at all. Her words hit you like a punch to the gut. You've spent so much time trying to build a future together, but now it feels like everything's unraveling right in front of you. The tension in the room is thick, almost unbearable. She's standing there, waiting for an explanation that will make everything okay, but you're not sure if there is one. You've kept a part of yourself hidden, and now, in the wake of her parents' disapproval, it feels like that secret is pushing you both further apart. I'm sorry, you say, your voice cracking. I didn't mean to hurt you. She doesn't respond right away, her eyes still searching yours, looking for some kind of reassurance. But you can see the doubt there, the uncertainty. The truth has come out, but instead of bringing you closer, it's only created more distance. And then, before you can say anything else, your phone buzzes again. Another message from your business partner, demanding your attention. You glance at the screen, feeling torn all over again. Your personal life is crumbling in front of you, but your business is on the line too. You're being pulled in two different directions, and you're not sure how to juggle it all. Your fiancée notices the look on your face and lets out a frustrated sigh. You're going to deal with that, aren't you? She asks, her voice laced with disappointment. You don't know what to say. You can't ignore the business, but you also can't afford to let things fall apart with her. You're stuck, paralyzed by the weight of everything coming down on you at once. I have to, you admit, reluctantly. It's important. She steps back, her face hardening. Right. More important than us. No, it's not like that, you say quickly, but the damage is done. She turns away, heading toward the bedroom without another word, leaving you standing there, feeling more helpless than ever. You look down at your phone, the message on the screen blurring as you realize the gravity of the situation. You've tried so hard to balance everything, to keep your worlds separate, but now they're crashing into each other, and you're not sure if you can hold it all together. As the night stretches on, the tension builds to a breaking point. You can feel it the moment where everything is going to come to a head. Her parents' disapproval, the secrets you've kept, the pressure of your business, it's all about to collide, and when it does, nothing will ever be the same. But for now, you're left standing in the eye of the storm, waiting for the inevitable. You stand there, frozen, as she disappears into the bedroom, the door closing softly but definitively behind her. The weight of everything hangs heavy in the air, pressing down on you from all sides. You're caught in the middle of a storm you didn't see coming, one that feels impossible to control. Your phone is still buzzing in your hand, but you can't bring yourself to answer it. Not yet. Not when your whole life with her is hanging by a thread. But just as you're trying to gather your thoughts, there's a knock at the front door. The sound is sudden, cutting through the silence like a sharp blade. For a second, you think you're imagining it, but then it comes again louder this time. You feel a jolt of anxiety in your chest. It's late, and you weren't expecting anyone. Who could possibly be here at this hour? You glance toward the bedroom door, half expecting her to come out and ask who it is, but she doesn't. You're on your own with this. Slowly, you make your way to the front door, every step feeling heavier than the last. When you finally reach it, you take a deep breath, your hand hovering over the doorknob. There's an uneasy feeling in your gut, like something's not right. When you open the door, you're not sure what you were expecting, but it definitely wasn't this. Standing on the doorstep is a man you recognize all too well. It's your business partner, the one you've been texting with all night. He's not supposed to be here. He's supposed to be halfway across the country, dealing with the fallout of the deal that's been keeping you up at night. But instead, he's here, standing in front of you, his face drawn and serious. Before you can even ask what's going on, he steps inside, closing the door behind him. His eyes are darting around, as if he's checking to see if anyone's watching. You've known this guy for years. He's always been cool under pressure, the kind of person who doesn't panic even when things go sideways. But right now, he looks rattled. Really rattled. What are you doing here? You ask, trying to keep your voice steady. He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he runs a hand through his hair, pacing back and forth, like he's trying to figure out how to say what he needs to say. Finally, he stops and looks at you, his expression grim. "There's more going on with the deal than I told you," he says, his voice low but urgent. "A lot more." Your heart sinks. You already knew the situation was bad, but the look on his face tells you it's worse than you thought. Much worse. "What do you mean?" you ask, dread creeping into your voice. He hesitates, glancing toward the hallway where your fiancée is still in the bedroom. "I didn't want to do this over the phone, but we're in trouble. Real trouble. It's not just about the deal falling through. There's someone else, someone who's been digging into our business." Your mind races, trying to piece together what he's saying. "Who?" you demand, your voice sharper now. He lowers his voice even more, Ash is afraid someone might overhear. "Her father." The words hit you like a freight train, knocking the air out of your lungs. You blink, not sure you heard him right. "What?" "I don't know how, but he found out about you, about us. He's been looking into everything. The business, the deals, everything. He's got connections, and he's using them." It takes a second for the full weight of what he's saying to sink in. Her father, the man who sat across from you at dinner, who looked at you like you were nothing, who made it painfully clear that you weren't welcome in his family, he's been digging into your life. And not just your personal life, but your professional one too. The realization hits you hard. This isn't just about him not liking you. He's actively trying to sabotage you, to destroy everything you've built. Your mind reels with questions. but one stands out above the rest. Why? Why would he do this? Your business partner shakes his head, frustration clear on his face. I don't know. Maybe it's personal. Maybe it's about control. But whatever it is, he's not backing down. He's got people working for him, pulling strings. If we don't act fast, he's going to blow everything up. The room feels like it's closing in on you. This can't be happening. You knew her father didn't approve of you, but this is on another level entirely. You feel a surge of anger, but there's also fear that this is bigger than you, that it's spiraling out of control, and you might not be able to stop it. What do we do? You ask, trying to keep the panic out of your voice. Your partner looks at you seriously. We need to get ahead of this. We need to cut ties with the deal before he can use it against us. If we act now, we can limit the damage. But we have to move fast. Tonight. You nod, your mind racing. You know he's right. You can't let her father destroy everything you've worked for. But even as you make the decision to act, there's another part of you that knows this changes everything with your fiancée. She has no idea what her father's been up to, and when she finds out, you don't even want to think about how she'll react. As if on cue, you hear the bedroom door open behind you. You turn around to see her standing there, her eyes filled with concern. She must have overheard part of the conversation because she looks from you to your business partner, suspicion clouding her face. What's going on? She asks, her voice wary. You freeze, your mind scrambling for how to explain this. How do you tell her that her father has been investigating you, that he's been trying to tear down everything you've built? How do you tell her that man she's trusted her whole life is trying to ruin you? Your partner glances at you, clearly unsure of how much to say in front of her. The tension in the room is unbearable. You can feel the ground shifting beneath your feet, the stakes rising even higher. We need to talk, you say, your voice strained. She crosses her arms, her eyes narrowing. Talk about what? What's going on, and why is he here? You open your mouth to speak, but before you can get a word out, your phone buzzes again. This time, it's a different number. You glance at the screen, and your heart skips a beat. It's her father. Your fiancée notices the look on your face and steps closer. Who is it? She asks, her voice sharper now. You hesitate, the weight of everything pressing down on you. It's your dad, you say quietly. Her face pales, and for a moment she just stares at you, not sure what to make of it. Why is he calling you? You don't know how to answer. Everything is unraveling at once. The secrets, the lies, the tension, it's all crashing down around you, and there's no way to stop it. All you can do is brace yourself for what's coming next, knowing that whatever happens, nothing will ever be the same. As the phone buzzes in your hand, you know you're standing on the edge of a cliff. One wrong move, one wrong word, and everything will come tumbling down. You're about to answer, but your fiancée steps forward, grabbing your arm, her eyes filled with fear and anger. Don't, she says, her voice trembling. Not until you tell me the truth. And just like that, the choice is in front of you. Do you pick up the phone and face her father head on, or do you come clean to her right here, right now, before the secrets tear you both apart? The seconds tick by, and the suspense tightens around you like a noose. The stakes have never been higher, and the decision you make in the next few moments could change everything for better or for worse. You look at her, her hand gripping your arm, her eyes pleading for the truth. The weight of everything is pressing down on you, and you know you can't put this off any longer. The buzzing of your phone in your hand feels like a countdown, and with each passing second, the walls are closing in. The choice you make right now will decide everything. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding, and with a trembling hand, you hit decline on the call. Her father's name disappears from the screen, but the tension doesn't leave the room. If anything, it grows heavier. Your fiancée's eyes are locked on yours, waiting, expecting, bracing for whatever you're about to say. I need to tell you something, you begin, your voice barely above a whisper. Your business partner stands off to the side, his face tense but silent, knowing this is your moment. There's more going on than you know. Your father, he's been digging into my life, into the business. He's been trying to sabotage everything I've built. Her eyes widen in disbelief, and she steps back as if she's been physically hit. What? No, that can't be true. My dad wouldn't. He couldn't do something like that. You swallow hard, hating the pain in her voice. You wish you didn't have to do this, but there's no turning back now. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. He's been working behind the scenes, using his connections to try to destroy my business. That's why we've been having problems with the deal. She shakes her head, her hands flying up to her temples, like she's trying to block out what you're saying. But why? Why would he do that? You exchange a glance with your business partner, and then you step closer to her. Because he doesn't want us together. He doesn't approve of me, and he's willing to go to any length to stop us. Her face pales, and for a moment, she looks completely lost. He doesn't want us together? She whispers, like she's still trying to make sense of it all. Then slowly, anger starts to replace the confusion. But why would he go so far? Why couldn't he just tell me? You hesitate, knowing that this next part will hurt even more. He thinks I'm not good enough for you. That I'm hiding things from you. You can see the pieces clicking into place for her, and it breaks your heart to watch it happen. And he's right. I was hiding something. Her eyes snap up to meet yours, and you feel her emotions shift in an instant. The hurt is there, but now there's a flicker of betrayal too. What else are you hiding? You take a deep breath, knowing you have to come clean now. I didn't tell you the truth about my business because I didn't want it to change how you see me. I'm not just a guy working a small job. I'm a millionaire. I've built something big, and your father, he knows about it. He's been using that information against me. She stares at you, her face a mix of shock, hurt, and confusion. You lied to me about who you are. I didn't lie, you say softly. I just didn't tell you everything, because I didn't want it to be about the money. I wanted you to love me for who I am, not for what I have. For a moment, she's silent, processing everything. You can see the wheels turning in her head as she tries to reconcile everything she's just learned. And then, after what feels like an eternity, she looks up at you, her voice shaking. I don't care about the money, she says quietly. I care that you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth. Her words hit you harder than you expected, and you feel a pang of guilt deep in your chest. She's right. You should have trusted her. You should have told her everything from the beginning, but you were too afraid of what it would mean. And now, you're paying the price. I'm sorry, you whisper, taking a step closer to her. I'm so sorry. But before you can say anything else, your phone buzzes again. It's her father. This time, she grabs the phone from your hand and answers it, her voice sharp and angry. Dad, what the hell are you doing? She snaps into the phone, pacing across the room. You can hear her father's voice on the other end, calm, measured, like he's completely in control of the situation. As she listens to him speak, her face twists in disbelief, and then anger. You've been spying on him? You've been trying to ruin his business? Why? How could you do that? Her voice is rising now, filled with a mix of rage and hurt. You watch helplessly as she argues with him, her face flushed, her hands shaking. Her father's voice is steady, but you can't make out what he's saying. All you know is that whatever he's telling her, it's not enough to justify what he's done. Finally, she lets out a frustrated cry and throws the phone down on the couch. I can't believe him, she says, her voice trembling. I can't believe he would go this far. You step toward her, but she holds up a hand, stopping you in your tracks. I need to think, she says quietly, her voice thick with emotion. I need time to process all of this. You nod, understanding. The night has been a whirlwind of revelations, and you know she needs space. But as she turns to leave the room, something stops you. A sudden realization. Wait, you say, your voice urgent. She pauses, looking back at you. There's one more thing. She frowns, her eyes wary. What? You hesitate, knowing that what you're about to say will change everything. But you can't keep it from her any longer. Your father, he wasn't just trying to sabotage my business. He was trying to control you. He didn't just dig into my life, he dug into yours too. Her eyes widen in shock. What do you mean? You take a deep breath. He's been keeping tabs on you. He knows everything, where you go, who you talk to, everything. He's been controlling things behind the scenes without you even knowing. She stares at you, her face pale, her eyes filled with disbelief. That can't be true. I wish it wasn't, you say softly. But it is. He's been trying to manipulate you, to make sure you end up with someone he approves of. Someone he can control. The room falls into a stunned silence. She looks away, her face tight, with a mix of emotions: betrayal, anger, disbelief. You can see her world crumbling around her, and you hate that you're the one who had to reveal it. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, she looks back at you, her eyes hard but determined. I need to talk to him, she says, her voice steady despite everything. I need to confront him. You nod, knowing this isn't over yet. But as she walks out of the room, you can't shake the feeling that things will never be the same. The truth has come out, but it's only revealed deeper layers of deceit and manipulation. And while the immediate danger might be over, the real battle is just beginning, one that will test not just your relationship, but everything you thought you knew about trust, loyalty, and love. As she walked out of the room, the weight of the evening hung heavy on your chest. You stood there, staring at the door, knowing that when she confronted her father, it would be a conversation that could change everything. But there was nothing left for you to do now, except wait. The truth was out, and you had no control over how it would all unravel from here. Your business partner gave you a look, half concerned, half relieved. You did what you had to do, he said quietly. Now, it's up to her. You nodded, but his words didn't bring much comfort. You wanted to believe everything would work out, but the uncertainty gnawed at you. The idea that her father had been so deeply involved in both of your lives was still unsettling. You didn't just fear losing her, you feared that whatever trust remained between you both had already been shattered. The hours passed slowly after she left, each minute dragging on with a suffocating sense of waiting. You tried to busy yourself with work, but your mind kept drifting back to her, to the confrontation that was happening miles away. Every time your phone buzzed, your heart leaped into your throat, expecting an update from her. But the hours stretched into the night, with no word, leaving you feeling more helpless with each passing second. It wasn't until the early morning light began to creep through the windows that your phone finally buzzed again. This time, it wasn't her father calling but her. Her name lit up the screen, and for a moment you hesitated. You weren't sure what she was going to say. Had the conversation with her father gone well? Or had it left things even more broken than before? With a deep breath, you answered the call, your heart pounding in your chest. Her voice came through softly, but it was steady. I talked to him, she said. There was a long pause before she continued. He admitted to everything. The digging into your life, the business he didn't even try to deny it. You closed your eyes, the relief mixing with a sense of sadness. It was what you expected, but hearing it confirmed made everything feel more final. I'm sorry, you said, not knowing what else to offer. You weren't sure what she needed from you in that moment, but you wanted her to know you were there, no matter what. She sighed on the other end of the line, and you could almost picture her running a hand through her hair, the way she did when she was stressed. It's not your fault, she said quietly. This is on him. I don't know what to do now. Everything feels different. And that was the heart of it, wasn't it? Everything was different now. The veil of trust and innocence that had once covered your relationship had been lifted, exposing the messy, complicated reality underneath. There was no going back to how things were before, there was only moving forward, and that path felt uncertain. I understand, you said, though in truth, you weren't sure you did. How could you understand what it was like for her to realize her father had been manipulating her, to have her family's betrayal exposed in such a brutal way? You could empathize, but you knew this wound ran deep, and only she could decide how to heal from it. I don't know if I can forgive him, she said after a long pause. And I don't know what that means for us either. Your heart sank at her words, but you knew you couldn't rush her. The pain was still too fresh, the betrayal too raw. Take the time you need, you said gently. I'll be here, no matter what. Another silence followed, but this one didn't feel as heavy. It was more like a moment of understanding between the two of you, an acknowledgement that things were complicated, but that you were both still trying to figure it out. I need some space, she finally said, her voice quiet but firm. I need to process everything before I can make any decisions." You nodded, even though she couldn't see you. "I get it. I'll give you whatever you need." After a few more quiet words, the call ended, and you were left standing there, staring at your phone, unsure of what the future held. But for now at least, there was nothing more you could do. In the days that followed, you threw yourself into your work, trying to distract yourself from the lingering uncertainty. The deal that had been causing so much trouble was finally resolved, thanks to the steps you and your business partner had taken. In the end, you'd managed to salvage most of what you'd built, but the scars from the experience remained. It wasn't just about the money or the business anymore. It was about trust, about realizing how fragile your relationships had become. Your fiancée, no, not your fiancée anymore, remained distant. She didn't call, and you respected her space, not wanting to push her before she was ready. You told yourself that if she came back to you, it would be on her own terms, not because you pressured her into it. But as the days turned into weeks, the silence between you grew louder, and the hope that she would reach out began to fade. It wasn't until a month later that you finally heard from her again. It was a simple text message, asking if you could meet to talk. Your heart raced as you typed back a quick response, agreeing to meet her at a small cafe where you used to go together. When you saw her walk in, it felt like seeing her for the first time all over again. She looked different, stronger somehow, more sure of herself. There was a new kind of resolve in her eyes, but there was also a softness that made you think that maybe, just maybe, things weren't entirely over. She sat down across from you, and for a moment, neither of you spoke. It was as if you were both gathering your thoughts, trying to figure out where to start. "I've had a lot of time to think," she finally said, her voice calm but steady. "About everything. About you, about my father, about what I want." You nodded, letting her take the lead. "I've come to realize that my father has been controlling more of my life than I ever knew," she continued. "And I can't let that happen anymore. I can't keep letting him dictate who I am or who I'm with." You felt a flicker of hope at her words, but you didn't let yourself get carried away. "What does that mean for us?" She took a deep breath, her eyes meeting yours. "It means I need to stand on my own for a while. I need to figure out who I am without him, without anyone trying to influence me. I need space to grow." Your heart sank, but at the same time, you understood. She needed to heal, to find herself again. And you couldn't be a part of that process, not yet. "I get it," you said softly. "I just want you to be happy. Even if that means being apart for a while." She gave you a small, sad smile. "I care about you. I always will. But I need to take this time for myself. I hope you understand." And you did. It hurt, but you understood. Sometimes, love meant letting go at least for a little while. The two of you talked for a while longer, about life, about how things had changed, and about where you both stood. There was no anger, no bitterness, just a quiet understanding that this chapter of your relationship was closing. But it didn't mean the story was over. Not yet. When you parted ways that afternoon, there was a sense of closure, but also a sense of possibility. You weren't sure if you would find your way back to each other in the future, but you knew that whatever happened, you both had grown from the experience. In the months that followed, you focused on rebuilding your life both personally and professionally. The business stabilized, and you found yourself moving forward, even if the road ahead felt uncertain at times. You learned to trust again, but more importantly, you learned the value of honesty and openness in your relationships. As for her, you heard through mutual friends that she was doing well, finding her own path and standing up for herself in ways she hadn't before. And though it still stung to think about what could have been, you couldn't help but feel proud of her for finding her strength. Life moved on, as it always does, but the lessons you learned from that turbulent time stayed with you. Trust, respect, and communication, they were the foundations of any relationship, whether personal or professional. And while things didn't turn out the way you had hoped, you knew that the journey had been worth it. In the end, it wasn't about the money or the business, or even her father's attempts to control your lives. It was about the choices you both made to take control of your own paths, to stand up for what you believed in, and to grow into the people you were meant to be. And as you moved forward, With or without her by your side, you carried those lessons with you, ready for whatever the future had in store.